In today's video, this is the fifth and the last video or part of the Cottage Core Designer Bag tutorial. And in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to assemble this bag, any of the last bits of crocheting that you might need to do. While the lining itself is completely optional, I am going to use this fabric here in order to show you how I make a lining for this, if this is something you might be interested in. I'm also going to explain how I go about making a handle like this with just the beads and components I happen to have available in my crafting section of my office. Let me give a warm welcome to all my Weaving Wyrd siblings, weirdlings, and just fun people. For those of you who aren't in the know, my name is Sid. I'm a retired tattoo artist turned fiber artist and crocheter. And here on my channel, you and I get to create a little magic with every knot. So don't forget to hit the subscribe and like buttons. This doesn't cost you anything, but it does help me provide you with regular tutorials featuring original designs, such as this, classic patterns, and there are elements of classic patterns in this piece, and lacy motifs. So this is kind of a 3-in-1, yeah? I'm always interested in your feedback, so feel free to leave your comments and questions below. So as you can see here, what I'm doing is I'm taking 6 of my tiles and I'm sewing them together in this fashion. So it's not quite a full circle, so you're going to have the one tile in the middle, and then you're going to place a tile on 5 sides of the hexagon. Now, in order to sew the tile on, basically, what I'm going to have you do or suggest that you do is you basically going to just sandwich your 2 pieces together, and then you're going to whip stitch in the back loop only, and I will show you what that looks like here in just a moment after I show you how to fold your piece in preparation for actually creating the bag. Okay, so once you actually have your 6 tiles sewn together, you're going to want to attach your 7th tile. And by attaching that 7th tile, you're going to actually create your bag. And you're going to do that like so. Let's go ahead and lay this down like this. And then I'm simply going to fold my pieces in just like this. So now you can see the shape is here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to find my corners, and I'm going to use my stitch markers in order to connect those corners together, just to make it a little less finicky, or fiddly rather. I guess finicky, fiddly, it's all kind of similar depending on your perspective or take. And so the next thing I'm going to actually do is I'm going to start in this corner, and I'm going to line it up with this corner. And as I mentioned before, I'm going to go ahead and I am going to whip stitch these back loops together. So as you see me sewing this seams together using the back loop only with a whip stitch, and of course from the back perspective, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sew any of the open seams all the way around. This is exactly how I sewed my 6 tiles together when the piece was front facing, before we folded the back pieces in on themselves in order to create the shape of this bag. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to finish sewing all my seams, and then we'll move on to the next step. So now that I've finished sewing all my tiles together to form my bag, it's going to be time to attach the straps. So I'm going to take my purse handle straps and I'm going to whip stitch it, of course, back loop only, at the very top of my corner piece of my bag, as you can see right here. And I'll just simply line it up and just make it, evenly across. And I'm going to go ahead and just sew this on. I'm going to do the same with the other side. And then once I've finished whip stitching this together, I'm going to weave in my end, do the other side, and then move on to the strap that will be used for the closure. Okay, so as you can see, I've got one strap on one side of the purse and the other strap on the other side of the purse. Next, this is going to be the back side of my purse. So this is where I'm going to connect my purse closure strap. However, you'll decide which side you want to be your front facing or your back facing. So with this being my back facing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to line this strap up with the center part of my hexagon. Because I have 15 double crochets across the top of my hexagon, and I have basically 9 single crochets here at the bottom of my strap, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to count over 3 double crochets, and then I'm going to, right here in this 4th double crochet is where I'm going to start making my whip stitch in the back loops only. And just like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to weave in my tail, and then I'm going to show you what to do next. Next, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to come to the corner that sits facing the back end of my bag. I'm going to insert my hook, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tie in. And in that same stitch, I am going to make a half double crochet. Now, what I'm going to do is I am going to make a half double crochet for each stitch, or in the case of a strap, it'll be a half double crochet for each row. And then when I come down here and get to the first inside corner, I'm going to half double crochet 2 together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to yarn over, I'm going to insert my hook into this last row right here next to my corner. And then instead of completing that, I'm going to yarn over again. I'm going to insert my hook into the next stitch, and I'm going to pull that through. And then I'm going to yarn over and I'm going to pull through all of those loops. And then that will give me my inside corner. And I'm going to continue on with my half double crochets into each one of those stitches. And then I'm going to do the same thing when I reach the next inside corner. Okay, so now I'm at my next inside corner. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to yarn over and I'm going to insert my hook into that next stitch. I'm going to pull that yarn through, and that's 3 loops on my hook. And then I'm going to yarn over again, and this time I'm going to insert my hook into the next stitch. And then yarn over and pull that loop through, and that will give me 5 loops on my hook. I'm going to yarn over, I'm going to pull that through all 5 loops, and that gives me my inner corner. And then I'm going to begin again with my half double crochets for each row. Now, when I get to an outside corner, which we'll be doing here in just a moment, I am going to place 3 half double crochets into that corner stitch. Now, once you get to the top corner of your piece, you're going to go ahead and make 3 half double crochets into the same stitch, and then continue on with a half double crochet in each stitch along the base of this strap. Until you get to the next corner, and there again it's going to be 3 half double crochets, and then it's going to be a half double crochet twice for each row, because these rows are made up of double crochets. And then you're going to do exactly what you've already done for the inner corner, and then I'll meet you when we get to the next strap. So now again, once you get to your next inner corner, go ahead and do those 2 half double crochets together. And then, because this is just single crochets, it's the next strap, all you want to do is place a half double crochet in each one of those rows and proceed as normal. You're going to continue to place 3 half double crochets at the corners, the outer corners, and you're going to then do 2 half double crochets together for the inner corners. And I'll meet you right back here when I have finished completing a round with regards to the opening of this purse.
Now, for those of you who are going to be making a liner for their bag, basically you're going to use your bag as a template, and then you're just going to cut your fabric, or use a ruler, draw around your fabric, or just put your piece in place and then cut, eyeball if you're able to eyeball, approximately a half an inch away from your bag, all the way around. And what you're going to want is you're going to want to have 4 pieces of fabric that you will be able to use as the inner lining. Next, we're going to want to cut the material for the gusset and also material for the lining I'm going to use on like the closure strap and the handle straps. Now, the strap linings, that's optional. I like to use it. You don't have to, but I do. So I'm going to show you here that that's what I am doing. So for the gusset, for the purse lining, you are going to want 2 strips that measure approximately 44.5 by 2.5 inches. For the purse closure lining, for that strap, you are going to want 2 pieces or 2 strips that measure approximately 8 by 3 inches. And then for your handle straps, you're going to want 4 strips that are going to measure approximately 4 by 2.5 inches. So now once you've sewn your pieces together, so this is the lining for the bag. Remember, you had 4 of these pieces that were cut from the template using your bag. And then this is where the gusset is sewn, for those of you who aren't familiar with a lining. Now, if I were using fabric that was pretty much the same saturation of color on both sides, I would probably only just use the one. But because I'm using a cotton that has one side that's near white and then the other side that's dyed, this backing part would otherwise show through the regular fabric of the purse, and I don't want that. So this is why I have these 2, and I'm making a double layered lining. So I'm basically going to take this and I'm going to just put this in here into the other one. So I have one bag lining that's turned right side out and the other one that's left inside out. And then when I put them together, what I'm going to have is I'm going to have a visual of the right side of the fabric on the inside and the right side of the fabric on the outside. And then from here, I will sew these shut together. And then I will sew this into the actual bag itself. Now, what I have next is I have this strap. You can see this is the one that is finished and ready to be sewn onto the inside of the strap for the handle. And then this is the piece where I sandwiched the two pieces together. And this is what it would look like after I've sewn it. And then I'm just basically going to turn it inside out. And then once I've done that, I will have another strap that looks just like this. And then, of course, as you can see with the strap for the closure, I've already turned that one inside out, or right side out rather, and I am ready to start to put these together inside the purse. So now if you're using the lining straps, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to put those in first. So you're basically going to take the one handle strap and just sew it to the outside, and then once you put that your handle through there, you're just going to again sew it down like so. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and you're going to put this through your handle. And then you're going to go ahead and sew it down, and you'll have your handle finished. Or at least the connecting part. And then the other part of this is you're going to pretty much do the same thing with your strap. For your closure, you're going to end up sewing it just like that. And you're going to be able to close it like this. Now, you want to put your straps in before you actually put the lining in, because once you put the lining in, it's going to sit over this part of the strap, and you'll naturally cover that behind the lining. And then one more thing, depending on how your closure is, and I happen to be using this magnetic closure, this is the time that I am going to actually connect my closures. So I'm going to figure out where I want this to sit, and I want it to sit somewhere like that. And then of course I'll connect it the way I'm supposed to. I'll install it the way I'm supposed to. And then for this, I'm going to pretty much do the same thing except with the center of the strap. And for this, I'm going to basically cut a couple of little slits into the fabric so I can push my closure through. And then I'm going to go ahead and I will have a way to close my purse. And then after I put this closure on and get it down and attached the way it's supposed to be, I'm going to take one of my flowers and I'm going to sew it right over the back of that closure. So it'll add a nice embellishment, and it will cover these tongs that I will be using to hold the clasp in place with. Okay, so now you can see that I've finished sewing into place my handle strap liners. You can see on both sides. And then also I sewed into place my closure strap. And then also I placed my magnetic closures. Now, as you can see, I have not put in the actual purse lining yet, because before I can do that, I need to embellish my bag. And the first thing I'm going to do to embellish my bag is sew my star aster into place. Now, I'm going to basically use this thread, the thread that was left over from when I crocheted the piece. However, that doesn't stop me from using more thread if if for whatever reason I need more thread because I just didn't have quite enough length. And that's okay, of course. Also, this is the perfect time to also put in your vines and your vegetation and your flowers. So you're going to kind of decide where you might like to put your flowers, how you're going to like to build your vegetation and vines up. And this is that time that you're going to sew all these pieces onto your purse. So for example, you can see that I'm just sort of placing these right now so I can get an idea. Now, if you find that you've fallen short for whatever reason in terms of flowers or vegetation, your vines, your little curlicues, by all means, just go ahead and make more if you need to. If you want something that's a little less dense, you'll probably have plenty of what you've already made in order to fill in the areas around the webbing. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get my motifs sewn into place and get my bag looking just like I want it to look. And then I'll meet you right back here so that we can further discuss sewing in the lining. And then I'll talk a little bit more about the handle and how I made that. All right. So now you can see how I have my purse. This is the front of my purse. And then this is what I have the back of my bag looks like. See if you can see that. There we go. So for those of you who are actually lining your bag, don't do it just yet because I'm still got to attach my handle. So next I'm going to talk about my handle. And as you can see, I have 2 lamp work frog beads at the base. And those are very cute. That's from my own collection of beads. I purchased these, I don't know how many years ago, but I got a whole bunch of them because I loved them and figured I'd find something to do with them. And well, this is one thing that they work out beautifully on. And then also you can see this is a huge selection, maybe not so huge, but a selection of large chunky beads, findings, and bead caps. Now, the majority of this, basically what I did was I just went to the jewelry or the bead section rather of Michael's. And they have that whole wall full of beads and, string beads. And I just simply found a string of beads. And in this case, it was a variety of beads on the string, these chunky beads with the findings. So I didn't have to invest too much into it. And then I just found a selection that was of a similar complementary color to what my bag was going to look like. And so it was real simple. It wasn't very difficult. The string of beads didn't cost more than what a standard handle would have cost me, and that was okay. And so this was the route I opted to take because I wanted my piece to have a little more personality. And so this string of beads, or rather these beads that came on the same string, worked out just perfectly with these lamp work frog beads that I happen to have. And then, of course, I added a few more beads, such as this finding right here, this bead that's designed to act as more of a, I don't know what you would call it, maybe something that would hold a charm, or it's just a different type of bead. The kind of bead that you would put on a wire necklace and then hang a charm from. So I used that because that worked perfectly for my handles, because instead of running, let's say, the necklace or wired necklace through the bead opening, I used the little ring that would normally be used to hold a charm as a way to hold onto the wire I strung the beads with to make my handle. And then I just put these basic keychain rings through. I didn't happen to have any D-rings on hand, and quite frankly, D-rings are fairly expensive and my budget's a little tight this time around. So I just forwent the D-rings, but you can certainly use D-rings if you have those on hand or you don't have a problem purchasing them, of course. I just happen to have an abundance of these key rings and it works out perfectly for my project. So then to get onto it, I actually just strung this with jewelry wire. Now, I used a 20 gauge jewelry wire and I strung it through. And then as you can see, I just strung it through this particular bead right here. And then I restrung that again back through the handle to give it a little additional strength and to help it keep its shape a little better. And then once I came through here, I just took the end of that wire. I don't know if you can see that. And I just wrapped it around the base in order to hold it in place. And that's really all I had to do in order to make this really unique, very cute, one-of-a-kind handle for my bag. So now that we've discussed the handle, I'm sure you could probably have already guessed it's going to be very simple to go ahead and attach it. So basically what I just did was I just ran my handle strap through the center of that ring, and I'm going to pull my handle strap down like so. And then I'm just simply going to sew it in place. Now, if you're not using a lining or a liner, you may consider just using yarn to sew this down, but I'm going to go ahead and use this cotton quilting thread for my piece. And that's fine because I'm going to be putting in a lining, and so you won't see any of it anyways. So I'm not too worried about that. I just need to sew it down. And then, of course, I'm going to do the other side. And as you can see, this is basically what it's going to look like. Now I'm going to go ahead and get the other side sewn down. And then we'll move on to the next part of this, which is going to be a quick rundown on how I insert the lining and sew it into place. So now you can see I have my handle on and my bag is ready for me to put my liner in. As you can see, I've finished my lining. Parts of this I sewed with a sewing machine, as you obviously already figured out. But if you don't have a sewing machine, you can always sew it by hand, so don't let not having a sewing machine stop you. Now here, in terms of the edging, basically what I did was I took the fabrics, as they sat together like this, and then I folded in the top side of each fabric to make a hem. And then I just sewed that top section closed. So you can see right there. And now I'm going to take this and I'm going to insert it into my bag. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pin this into place like so. So I'm just going to find where my gusset sits, and that's where I'm going to line it up in terms of my bag. I'm going to line it up right there along with the handle strap. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. You can see I've lined it right up there along the edge. And then I'm going to continue to pin my lining in so everything is right where I want it to be. And then I'm going to sew the lining right there to the edge of my warp, just on the inside of it. Now I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I will get back to you here in just a moment. So now once you've finished sewing in your lining, and basically here I've just done a basic whip stitch all the way around. You can see it's a nice fit for the bag. I really advocate lining a crocheted bag, or particularly a bag that you're going to use as your purse, especially if you're just using straight like cotton yarn or whatever other kind of yarn you choose to use to make your purse with. Sometimes some of that nylon yarn, that heavier nylon yarn that you usually see they make in the smaller bags with, those are typically fine. You don't need to worry about aligning with those. But these bags like these, I think they really benefit from a lining. And I find that I am much happier if they're lined, and I can only imagine that other people are really happy too, because their bag doesn't get stretched out unnecessarily. There's less wear and tear because you have a liner absorbing that. The connection point of your strap to your purse is much stronger. And there again, you're not stretching the straps out unnecessarily. So a lined bag is really the way to go when we're talking a crocheted bag. But this is the finished piece. I love it. And this suits my style just fine. But now's the time for me to say goodbye. So until we meet again, stay creative, stay amazing, and above all, always weave your own Wyrd. Thank you for joining me. It's been great. Bye-bye now.